Russian President Vladimir Putin is hosting his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for talks. Now, topping their agenda is the future of Syria's Kurdish-controlled areas. Kurdish militias control much of northern Syria, that after pushing out so-called Islamic State. IS has lost almost all of its territory in Syria, and that's led President Trump to withdraw the 2,000 or so American troops supporting the Kurds. Erdogan regards the Kurdish militias as terrorists, and he sees their presence along Turkey's border, its southern border there, as a threat to national security. In a phone call with President Trump, he proposed a Turkish-controlled safe zone along the border. Now, Turkey is also seeking control of Manbij. That city, of course, was captured by the Kurds from IS back in 2016. With the U.S. now poised to withdraw, the Kurds are trying to avoid a full-on Turkish military assault from troops that are poised at that border region. They've turned to Russia for diplomatic help. Now, the Kurds have long dreamed of one day establishing an autonomous region in northern Syria. But strategically, the position of Kurdish forces has become precarious in the wake of Washington's planned withdrawal.
This was the scene in northeast Syria 2 days ago when a convoy of U.S. and Kurdish-led troops was bombed in an attack claimed by Islamic State. And exactly 1 week ago in Kurdish-held Manbij near the Turkish border, another apparent IS attack that killed 4 Americans. Despite the ongoing fighting, Washington remains committed to withdrawing its troops, meaning Syria's Kurds are about to lose a powerful ally. Then there's the issue of a safe zone along the border with Turkey, a U.S. proposal. But who should create it, and who should police it? For Russia, which backs Syria's government forces, the answer is clear.
We are convinced that the best and only solution is the transfer of these territories to the control of the Syrian government and of Syrian security forces and administrative functions.
But Turkey equally wants control of this buffer zone to protect against what it sees as the Kurdish threat.
Our proposal for a safe zone comes with the goal of keeping terrorists and terror organizations away from our border.
Ankara insists Syrian Kurdish fighters are linked to the Kurdish rebel group, the PKK, widely branded a terrorist organization. It doesn't want Syrian Kurdish militia gaining power on its borders, fearing that might encourage the Kurdish insurgency inside Turkey. This time last year, Turkey launched its military operation on the former Kurdish enclave of Afrin in northern Syria. Kurds marked the anniversary with protests. They have reason to fear that Turkey will strike again. That's why Kurdish fighters are now reaching out to Syrian government troops for protection.
So what's in store for northern Syria? For more on that, we have DW's Emily Sherwin in Moscow, where those talks are taking place today, and in Istanbul, we have DW's Yulia Han. Good morning to both of you. Emily, first to you. The planned U.S. withdrawal from Syria would leave a power vacuum in the area. How does the Kremlin want to fill it?
Well, absolutely. This announcement of the U.S. withdrawal would have been music to Russia's ears. If the U.S. withdraws, that will basically leave Russia in control of the skies, and they'll be the only non-regional power with a stake in Syria's future. And they've also been saying for a long time that the U.S. is basically, as they see it, an occupying force in Syria because their presence there has not been agreed with the Syrian government. And that's a hint, basically, at what Putin wants for Syria's future. He absolutely wants to consolidate the Syrian government's control over the country, and he wants to play a big role in the future, in the peace process in Syria, and have a stake in the future of that country, which, of course, would give Russia a foothold in Syria, in the Middle East, including militarily.
Yulia, President Erdogan wants a safe zone in northern Syria. He has a different view there. Well, what does he have in mind?
President Erdogan established Turkey as one of the key players in the Syrian conflict, especially last year alongside Russia, Iran and the US. And now he also wants to secure his interests before the Americans pull out their troops from Syria. He also wants to make sure he has a say. He wants to consolidate, even extend his influence over there. And his main objective, that's something we heard already, is to push back the Kurdish YPG fighters. These fighters are allied with the Americans. They've helped them in their fight against Islamic State terrorists. But for President Erdogan, these Kurdish fighters too are terrorists. And he wants them, and I quote him here, to wipe them off the map. And this will be his message in Moscow today. He'll also present his plans for a so-called safe zone. He has been talking about this with Washington already. The details are not quite clear yet. But the Turks want it to be about 32 kilometers deep, extending into Syrian territory from the Turkish border, free of any YPG fighters and controlled by Turkey. And now it will be, of course, interesting to see what President Putin has to say about that.
It will indeed. Emily, could Turkey's proposed safe zone, 32 kilometers deep into Syria, fit in with Russia's strategic interests?
Well, that safe zone is certainly more of a Turkish plan, and Russia knows that the Assad regime has said that it is categorically against that area, that buffer zone or safe zone being controlled by Turkish troops. Now, there may be some sort of a compromise on the table today. Vladimir Putin has said before that perhaps that buffer zone, that safe zone, could be controlled by Syrian government troops. And this month, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also reiterated again that these territories could be under Syrian control, that in fact that is the only option. And he also welcomed the fact that the Syrian government had held talks with Kurdish representatives. So that could perhaps be a compromise on the table today.
Okay, possible compromise out there. Yulia, for months now, Turkish troops have, of course, been massed at the border with Syria. In light of the talks at the Kremlin today, is an assault by Turkey on Kurdish-held territory now off the table?
No, it's not. The Turkish government keeps emphasizing they're ready to launch another military offensive. They have reinforced troops and equipment along the border, as well as inside Syria. Some say that's also President Erdogan appealing to nationalist voters ahead of the local elections upcoming here in March. But of course, any military operation is very costly, and it will strongly depend on the negotiations and agreements both with Washington and Moscow.
Yulia Hahn for us in Istanbul, and Emily Sherwin for us in Moscow following those talks. We'll have more on those later today. Thanks for now to both of you.